About 10 years ago, we bought a rundown farm on the west coast of Norway. Our goal for this farm was to bring this back from the sorry state it was left in and to make this into the farm of our dreams. Through the years we have been working slowly to achieve our goals, but in 2024 we decided to kick things into high gear. In this video we are going to bring you along for the entire year, month by month, and to show you the ups and downs when nature decided to show herself from a calm and tranquil side and when she unleashed her raw brute strength. Most importantly, we are going to take you along with the amazing transformation our farm has gone through this year. My name is Eric and you are watching Norwegian Farm Life. This year started with snow, lots of snow. Even our trusted tractor had problems as the snow kept piling up behind the blade. We were snowed in and I used 2 whole days to clear away our driveway so that we could go shopping. The winter in Norway can be really tough. The weather is one thing, but what usually gets to me is the lack of daylight. Our spirits were low, and we doubted whether this life was for us. Is it worth all the hassle? Would it not just be easier to live in an apartment and not deal with the animals, flooded fields and slippery roads, and generally all the work that comes with a farm? When February came, we had our answer. This is our dream and we are going to go for it. For several years, raising kids and going to work, the farm has just been a hobby. We have lacked a clear path forward and that has halted our progress. We sat down and we made a plan. We were going to raise sheep. That meant expanding our small flock of 3. This had been our original plan when we bought the farm. First point on our plan was to deal with the tractor situation. Some years ago I bought another tractor with a bigger engine and a 4-wheel drive. This was going to be my main tractor, but it had a lot of issues. I was supposed to fix this up, but as we had the other tractor that was in a good condition, we always turned to that. Our new tractor was left outside to rust, as we only had room for one in our garage. We made a decision and sold our old tractor. That would force us to deal with a new tractor and we could finally put it under our roof. The roof was, however, not high enough, as this tractor was taller, so we needed to modify the garage a bit. I accidentally forgot one of the beams and I ended up crushing the exhaust pipe. Making hay have been a real challenge through the years as we have been using an unstable mower from the 50s. If we were going to get serious, that would not suffice. So when I came over a newer mower for a reasonable price, I bought it. This mower is from the 90s and it has a 4-stroke engine. Another point on our plan was to put up more fences, as our animals were only grazing about 10% of our land. We bought in new fence poles and netting and started by fencing in the bit of land we used to make our hay. The plan is to let the sheep in here whenever we are done with the haymaking, so that the sheep can graze what we couldn't reach with the mower. That would also fertilize the field while they eat. A problem with this field is that it's so wet that we cannot use all of it, so we decided to make a drain. During the summer of 2023, we bought 2 woolly piglets. We didn't really have a clear plan with these. We have butchered pigs before, but to be honest, I don't like butchering animals. The plan for the farm was laid. We were going to get serious, and so our animals would need a purpose. Keeping pigs as pets is just not a good idea, as they eat a tremendous amount of food. They would need to go, so we sold them. March is a fantastic month in Norway. The light had returned and that filled us with an almost infinite amount of energy. It's like taking a bite out of something really good when you're starving. We get so deprived of light during the winter that when it's finally back, it's just euphoric. While my wife worked on moving the first plants out in the big greenhouse, I worked on fencing. My goal was to get rid of the temporary electronet fences that we have put up some years earlier. This net is easy to put up, but if not properly energized, it can turn into a fishing net and trap the sheep. It can also turn deadly if they get stuck in it while it is energized. We probably had several kilometers of this fence type by now, but little by little we were going to replace it with permanent fences. If you want eggs, you need to replace your chickens from time to time, as chickens don't lay eggs when they get old. So we bought some fertilized eggs from another farmer. I noticed that the chickens were having problems using the walkways in the chicken coop, so they got an upgrade. I was feeling a bit tired of picking up the walls from our greenhouse from our neighbor's garden, so I decided to fortify it a bit. In the end, I just did the sides. I would take the roof later. We had loads of time before the winter storms were here again. The once beautiful patio on the backside of the house had seen better days. It's so overgrown that it's almost impossible to see that there are concrete slates here. Time to do something about it. While I cleaned the patio, my wife prepared the beds in our kitchen garden. The fertilized eggs had just days left until they would hatch, so we needed to make them a brooder, where they could live until they got their feathers and could go outside. While we waited for the chickens to hatch, I also made a gate so that we could close off the fields that we had just fenced in. We don't want the sheep in here until after we are finished with the season. If we wanted to grow a small flock of sheep, we would need a ram. He was expensive, but magnificent, and he had certification papers. That meant that we were guaranteed to get back the money when we sold him next year. The excitement was, however, short-lived. My son found him dead in one of the electronet fences the next morning. That was a hard blow, but we decided to push on. The chickens finally hatched, and after a day we put them in the brooder. We were still planning on expanding our flock of sheep, and that meant prepping another field for hay. We put up temporary fences and added chicken manure to the field as fertilizer. We also treated it with sand from shells that are rich in lime. It slowly releases lime to neutralize the sour soil. Our main field also needed some treatment. The ratio grass-moss is not good, and if we wanted a higher yield, we would need to get rid of the moss so that we could grow more grass. I bought a harrow some time ago that I wanted to try. It needed some work before I could use it. After raking away all the moss, I gave the field a final treatment with my mower to get rid of the grass hills. Probably not normal farming practice, but it worked. After removing all the moss, it was room for more grass, so we planted grass seeds. We also treated this field with shale sand and industrial fertilizer as we were out of chicken manure. The rest of the month we used to finish the fence run so that we could take down one of our 2 electronet loops. We were getting there. We started May by tackling our house. The wall on the north side gets the least amount of sunlight, and so this was the worst. The paint here was chipping away and the door was falling apart as it had started to rot. We brushed all the loose paint away and gave the wall 2 strokes of paint. In an effort of saving some money and squeezing some more life out of the door, I removed the rotten parts and replaced it with new wood. The door also got 2 strokes of paint. Our chickens were getting too big for the brooder, so we moved them out to the chicken tractor that we made the year before. This is a movable house that gives the chickens new green grass to eat while fertilizing the fields. It's a great concept that actually works. It started to get warm, and that meant sharing the sheep. The land where the pig had roamed was full of rocks and dead moss hills. Rocks can be a problem in one place and the solution to a problem in another place. When you have a farm, you probably have both problems. The solution was to pick up the rocks from the field and to use them to finish our parking lot. And then we finished the parking lot by adding gravel. Back at the fields where the pigs have been, we planted grass seeds. Our daughter has a rare genetic mutation called DDX syndrome, and that gives both physical and mental disabilities. To make it a bit easier for her to move around in the garden, I wanted to fix up this staircase. When I started, I planned to remove all the loose bricks and to make a wooden staircase, but I had no idea about what was hiding beneath. A beautiful, natural stone staircase. Next on the list was the tractor garage. The lower cladding and trim was so bad that we needed to replace it. Since this is a farm, I wanted to paint it red. We decided to leave the roof for now, since it was still somewhat whole and not leaking. Maybe next year. Taking over an old abandoned farm like this means throwing away a lot of trash. Old increments and metal trash were left everywhere, so we gathered it next to the tractor garage. It was time to clean. We filled up the car several times until it looked a whole lot better. Now we could make something that we really needed: more parking space for equipment. When the forecast finally promised us a few days with sun, it was time to make hay. The new mower was a treat to use, but the weather was not on our side. Although it was sunny, the temperatures were not as high as we needed them to be. It also rains a lot here on the west side of Norway, and so in the end our time was up. Rain was coming and we had to take the hay in. It was not dry enough, and so it had started to rot. After throwing out all the moldy hay, we were left with about a third that was still good. This was a major letdown. This month a big decision was made. We were going to start our biggest project so far. We were going to rebuild our barn. We believe that the original barn was built around 1918. It was a magnificent stone and wood structure with stone slate roof. After years of neglect, the roof finally caved in. The previous owners didn't want this to become a dangerous playground for curious kids, so they burned the leftovers to the ground. If we were going to expand our farming business, we needed a proper barn. I worked on the rubble now and then, but now we were going to get serious. Our plan was simple. The old stone walls were about a meter thick and could easily handle another 100 years. We were going to reuse the stone structure and rebuild the wooden parts. When I cut the old water pipe, I got a major surprise. The pipe was still connected. That was lucky. We already had running water. A farmer friend from across the fjords felt so bad that we lost our prize ram, so he gave us a ram lamb for free, so that we could grow our flock. He even filled his hanger with scrap when he left. That is a good friend.
Husker du hva som kan skje med landet som skjedde med katten din?
Få denne her etter hvert som den vokser.
After clearing away the rubble in the barn, we found something strange. It was a hidden room under the floor. I eventually found out that this was a holding tank for wet manure. I had no idea that this was here. The grass had grown enough so that we could do our second cutting of hay. This was particularly important as we had lost so much during the first harvest. This time we also had a secret weapon. We had bought a hay turner for the tractor. This machine took some getting used to, as I've never operated something like this before. In the beginning it was set too low, so we turned up a lot of moss and dirt, but we got the hang of it in the end. It made the job a whole lot easier. We got the hay in, and this time I also added some salt to the hay to make sure that any lingering moisture was dragged out. It worked, and this time the hay did not go bad. The next step on the barn project was to clean the walls. We needed to remove all the moss and dirt so that we had a clean surface to work with. We even got some help from the weather. Since fall was getting close, we could expect more bad weather, so we put up a tent to keep the tools dry. We are going to get some help raising this building from a carpenter that specializes in old building styles. He's going to build the wooden frame in the same style that the original building. That's a process where wooden beams are locked together with wooden nails. He needed a flat surface to work with, so he instructed us to cast a level base in concrete on the top of the walls to make sure that the new building would be level. We fastened poles on the inside and the outside of the walls. These were going to hold the formwork. To make sure that all were level, we put up a laser leveler in the middle of the building and cut them all to the same height. Now we could use these to find the heights of the form. Fall is closing in and our chickens have turned into grown-up hens, so it's time to move them from the chicken tractor into the rest of our chickens in the big chicken coop. The race was on. During the winter months in Norway, the temperatures often creep below freezing, so we needed to get the concrete work done as quickly as possible. Our original plan was to pick up the bags of finished mixed concrete every time we passed the hardware store, but it quickly became apparent that it would not work. They were just too heavy, so we could only get a few bags in the car at the same time. We would need to order a truckload. I'd still not finished the formwork on the last wall. The reason is that I wanted to have the opportunity to adjust this after the other walls were set to make sure that we got a square base. Some of the boulders here were a bit tall for the form, so we needed to break them up a bit. One morning, we woke up to frost. This was stressing me out. We needed to pick up the pace. One evening I saw something strange in the sky. It was a red light that I have never seen before. It turned out to be one of the most spectacular northern lights I have ever seen. Finally, we were ready to pour concrete. I tried to calculate how many bags I would need, and I'd even bought some extra. It turned out that I had missed by a lot. The reason is that I used the same amount as for the other slabs and deviated by half. These forms were, however, deeper, so my calculations was wrong. I don't think it matters, but we would have a weakness in the slab. A few days later, the first of the winter storms came rolling in. It completely destroyed our chicken tractor. It also demolished the tool tent. Empty bags of concrete were scattered all over the farm. And in all the chaos around the barn project, I had completely forgotten to finish the fortification of the small greenhouse. So once again, we had to go and look for panels. At least none of the panels we had fortified had moved, so there is hope. After buying more concrete, it was time to finish the base. This time I had bought enough concrete for sure, or so I thought. I had thrown in all the rocks I could find to fill the rest of the form. In the end, I missed the corners, but it won't be visible when the frame is finished. Finally, we could remove the forms and look at the result. We got a wet start on November with a record-breaking downpour that completely flooded our farm. My family was stuck at the farm and I was stuck at work, since a mudslide had blocked the road home. When the road finally opened, it was pitch black outside. My first obstacle was the river. This would be uncomfortable. Then I had to cross the lake in front of our house. I was finally home. The water disappeared as fast as it came. Already the next day it was gone. The base on the top of the barn was finished, but we could not build just yet. Since there's so little left of the original building, we needed to apply for a building permit to set up a brand new building from scratch. To do that, we needed to make drawings to include in the application. My plan was to do that several months ago, so that we could continue. But the drawings needed to be accurate and the time window for casting the base was closing due to the looming winter, so I prioritized finishing the base over making the drawings. Now we could finally do the last measurements and draw our future barn. This is the final result. Now we just need to finish the application and send it in. In the end, we didn't send in the finished application until December. While we waited to build, there's a lot of other things that needed our attention, like this gate. It has annoyed me all summer as I've been going back and forth through it so much. One of our sheep also figured out that if she pushed against the lock, it would let her through. So let's fix it. That is a lot better. Our biggest and flattest fields are just covered by moss as they are so wet. If we are going to expand our farming, we need to be able to make more winter feed. So I wanted to make a French drain. Since I don't have an excavator, our tractor digger need to suffice. Before I mounted that, however, I wanted to make the tractor a bit less likely to sink into the wet soil by fitting our restored twin wheels. We woke up to what looked like a Christmas card. Snow everywhere. In between the work we managed to have some fun, and that was good since the snow was short-lived. After I'd gone through the road, I made a great mistake. I tried to go around the drain on our other field to dig it out a bit. The ground was just too soft, even with the twin wheels. This was our problem. I had just made a big trench through our road, so nobody could come and help until I had finished the road. After blowing up the tires on our wheelbarrow and moving tons of rocks and shingles by hand, I had finally backfilled the road so our neighbor could drive his tractor over to our field. A big thanks to our neighbor that truly saved the day. This project was definitely not going to plan as the water in the trench wasn't flowing. We found out that the water pipe going under the driveway is not letting enough water through. There is also about half a meter difference in the water table on each side of the pipe, so there is room for improvement. My plan is to lay down an ID 400 pipe. That's 400 millimeters in diameter and about 4 times the volume of today's pipe. We just got some news. Some great, unexpected and just fantastic news. The building application we sent in just 3 weeks ago has been approved. That means that we can finally build. If you want to follow our progress in 2025, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next video. Thank you so much to all that has been helping us through this year, like our neighbor and my farmer friends from across the fjords. A special thanks to our fantastic patrons that are supporting our channel so that we can continue making videos, and thank you all that has been watching and supporting us through this year. May you all have a great new year.